Hey y'all. Alrighty, so today I'm going to talk about D-series Schlage locks. Not A-series. These are the big brother to the A-series. Not B-series, because B-series are deadbolts. Not C-series, because there is no C-series. But D-series! Now, most notably, you're going to run across these on D-series lever handle on businesses, and there are a couple of tricks and tips that I'm going to show you about these, and then I'm going to clear them out of the way and kind of work on one to show you the little quirks of taking them apart or servicing them. So I'm going to go ahead and get the D series out of the way because it's kind of not specific to this video, but I'm just going to quickly show you. D series is a heavy duty Schlage lever. It has the same body and frame and latch as the knobs do, but obviously they needed lever handles for the ADA, which I'm going to cover towards the end of this video. But the D series, I'm going to quickly go over this because this is not really about levers, this is about knobs. But I do want to point out while I have this D series, because it's not really worth it in its own video, but this is a poker tool that comes with D series locks and Rhodes locks. So to take it off the door, basically you would push in just like anything else, pull your lever handle off. If you look around the circumference of it, you should find a spring-loaded mechanism here. Now, of course, this is sometimes tricky to get off of a door. It's nice and easy there because it's in my hand. But sometimes that's a little tough to get off the door, especially if it's been painted on. So once you take your rosette off and set it aside, and then you take this part off, which is kind of the collar. It's actually a really heavy brass collar too. You will immediately notice the two screws that hold it on the door, and you take those screws out and it still doesn't come out. Well, that's what these things are for. It's basically for post leg. And if you look right here, I didn't bring a good screwdriver for pointing. If you look right here, you will see 4 notches. So this goes down, intersects with those notches, and unscrews it. Now, of course, if you're in the field or you may not have access to that tool. This is, I believe, what they call a castle nut, because it kind of looks like a castle. And it screws down to tighten the rest of it down. And once you take it off, you can get the lock off the door. So if you do not have your Rhodes tool, typically what you would just have to do would be to use a flathead screwdriver and a something to tap your flathead screwdriver with while you were taking it off the door. Let me get it back on so I can show you that. Oh, come on. There we go. So if you didn't have this handy dandy little tool right here to get it off and it was tightened on the door, basically you have to come in with a screwdriver at an angle like that, and then tap, tap, and then keep tapping and keep unscrewing. And eventually it'll get loose enough so that you can just use your screwdriver to rotate it off. Another thing with D-series Rhodes, I've got the door open, hold on. Quiet that noise down a little bit, sorry about that. Is it uses a specially sized cylinder. You can't use like an A-series or a regular key and knob style cylinder without a lot of trouble getting it to work, because it has to have, number one, a short tail piece, and like A-series have the longer, and also it is slightly different in the body. So if you're trying to retrofit like a D-series Rhodes with a LSDA or GMS cylinder, you're kind of going to have a lot of trouble because it's not going to fit right. That's just a warning. You can try, but it's not going to be pretty. So anyway, I'm going to put this back together and just go ahead and get it out of the way so that I can go over the actual point of this video, which is the D-series knobs. So of course nowadays D-series or door knobs are very rarely used because of ADA compliance, American with Disabilities Act. So you're not going to often run up on these if you do mostly commercial. But you will if you are in an area that has houses that were built from like the 50s, 60s era, 70s era. You will sometimes run across a D-series locks on the door because they were pretty popular on the higher end houses for a heavy duty lock during that time. And also commonly on the front door you would find it with a big escutcheon around the front of it, which looks similar to this. There were several different styles of escutcheons, but it was very common to see them with, you know, a decorative thing in the middle of the door sometimes with a long latch. But you can also just find them with regular sized latches. So I've got several laid out here, and I want to talk about the differences in them. Basically why I've got several laid out is because there's different functions. So we have passage, no lock at all. There's privacy, which I do not have a privacy version up here. There is the entrance, which has the push button. So, okay, now, oh, that's another thing. I don't have, that's not part of this section of the video, but you push it in and it locks, and you unlock it, it pops it out. If you push it in and turn it, it turns it into a storeroom function, so the only way to open the door is to turn the key and hold it and push. So that would be the entrance style lock, which when you push the button in and turn it, it turns it into the storeroom function. This is storeroom function. There is no button on the inside. The only way to unlock the door ever is with the key. You would frequently find these on storage rooms or something that needs to stay locked all the time, security type rooms. This is another entrance version, and this is the one that we're going to talk about. This is a classroom function. Classroom function, if you don't know, again, you turn the key in a full circle and it's locked. And then you turn the key in the opposite direction in a full circle and it stays unlocked throughout the day. They made this so that no kid could, you know, lock the door from the inside. However, nowadays with all the rampant problems we have in schools with school shootings, there has been a upswing. Of course, you're not going to see knobs very rarely in schools except in really old small schools, but this was one of the problems. There was no way for the teacher, without opening the door, to lock it with the key. There was no way for the teacher to lock it from the inside without exposing herself. So classroom functions in school are pretty much kind of going to go by the wayside in lieu of the lockdown type, where it still functions like a classroom, but there will be some type of deal here with the key mechanism that will allow the teacher to quickly lock it down in the event of a issue in the school. And finally, we have the double key style. The double key style is highly against fire code. We have people ask about these all the time. They just say, well, I just want to buy a doorknob that's got a key on the inside and outside. Like if they don't have a deadbolt on the door, but they want to try to secure it, they think that they can just purchase a door lock with a key on both sides, which is not the case. This is very rare. It's very rarely used, and almost always only used in like a prison setting where there is or hospital setting where there is somebody that is on call that guards that door literally all the time. And it functions like a classroom function lock. So on the inside, so just assume that's on the inside of the door. It's unlocked, it's locked on the outside. If we take our key, turn it all the way in a circle and pull it out, it's locked on the inside and on the outside. Obviously way against fire code, but again, this is rarely used, only used in institutional type settings. So you can have one side locked, the other side locked, or both sides locked, or both sides unlocked. however you need it to function at the time. So that is your, I can't remember the function style. The asylum lock is what it's frequently referred to. It's been frequently referred to, people sometimes refer to asylum locks as any double type lock, but that's not the case. This is truly an asylum style lock. So let's talk about the tools needed to service them and some of the issues that can happen to them. These things are tanks. This thing weighs like 3.5 pounds by itself. Compared to an A series, we can see the size difference. If I put my knob back on here, we can compare the two anyway. All right, so big difference in size. Of course, this is a different shape knob, but a lot beefier, a lot heavier. I believe you could probably use these on a little bit thicker doors as well, and you do that by adjusting the outside trim, which will extend it considerably. The A series, you can get by sometimes using it on a thick door, but I believe these came, I don't know offhand, but you could get away with using it on a little bit thicker door just because of the bigger adjustment of it. Now, of course, with the A series, you have you pop the knob off. You try to pop the knob off. And then you pop this plate off the inside. And there's 2 screws that hold it on like that. So the difference in the A versus the D is it does not use that at all. It uses no screws. It only uses this rosette. So when you come up to the door, if you are taking this off and you are not familiar with it, you would go and you would push the knob in and try to pop that plate off, but it's not going to come apart because it is not made to come apart, which is where this tool is introduced, and this comes with this brand of lock. It's very common to see this in other brands as well, but this one is specifically for Schlage because it says Schlage. But you come up to the door, hook this into the hole, and then put your leg of the tool there, and in this case I'm tightening it on the door. And you have to be careful not to let this slip, so kind of focus what you're doing, and that is tightening it. So to loosen it, you would basically flip it around the other way and put your leg carefully up against it and start rotating it counterclockwise until you're able to unscrew it from the door. And you can see, even though there's 2 holes there, looks like screws will go through. No screws go through. And at that point, you are pretty much done. You just slip it off the door like anything else. We can see the latch is super heavy duty. Let's see if I can get this latch out to show you. And I don't have an A series latch up here, I don't think. Yeah, I do right here. We can see the huge difference in the latch as well. This would be considered, the D would be considered grade 1, and the A was considered grade 2, but in reality it's pretty dang heavy duty in itself, but you can see the big difference in the latch size. Now, this D series also came on the EB handle sets. E. They did use the EB handle sets. A modified version of this big latch was used on the EB handle sets as well. But again, it is considerably bigger than the A series was. So one of the biggest problems you're going to run up on these is simply just the interior getting gooed up. Now, you can take it apart. See if I can get this going here. I have done multiple videos showing taking the Schlage A series apart, time trials, and all that. And I know a lot of locksmith clubs and organizations, that was the big thing in the day, was time trials taking apart A-series locks. D-series are slightly different. It only has the one cotter pin, and you pop your cap off here, and we have what looks like legs. Now, compared to the A-series, which would just, you have to get this shred off, you have to push it in. This, you push in here and lift up. That piece comes off. And then you carefully, I don't know if I want to get into this, but might as well, I'm already there. We take this apart here. And there's your springs and latch cam retraction mechanism, I guess you could call it. And this was an entrance, so there's going to be slightly different depending on which style you're taking apart. You're going to have different little doodads here. But if we take this out, we can see it is interesting little mechanism that we're not going to really take apart. And with the A-series, you would take it apart to be able to get in there and, you know, rotate your, if you couldn't pick it to turn to get it apart. But with the D-series, you have a problem. And that problem is that plate is in the way. So what that means that you almost always have to have a key to get it apart, or be successful in picking the lock to get it apart, to be able to make new keys for it. Because going down this road is not going to solve your key, not having a key problem. So I'm going to go ahead and snap that back together carefully. And what I was talking about in, okay, so what this is this lock has been sitting up for quite a while. I didn't bring any with me, but really you need lubricant. And it's good to have like a cleaner. Typically, if they haven't been taken apart, you're going to have this issue with the latch not pulling back. And you can almost always correct all these problems simply by cleaning it with a lubricant. Here I'm using Ultra Lube for no particular reason other than I've been testing that. Seems to be a pretty good product. And we can see, there we go, automatically it frees it up. So really that will fix most of your problems. You may have to take it apart and douse it with electrical like contact cleaner to clean it if there's really bad gummed up area, but almost always the lubricant will fix most of your problems, which it just did. Thank you, lubricant. Lube helps everything. And to get this back together, we slide that on and find our cotter pin and push it back in through the hole and bend it into position. Outside knob. Go ahead and after you get it off, typically they're going to be 5-pin cylinders. I don't have a cylinder out here, so let's just take this one off to show you a little bit of the difference between an A series and a D series. So while this one freely comes off, that might not be the case with yours. It almost never is. Here is the D series cylinder, and here is your typical A series cylinder. So the first thing we notice is the obvious difference in the tailpiece length. So if you were to use this, you would need to cut it to size, because this cannot project through too much. If it does, it will interfere and you will not be able to push the button in. On any lock, if you ever put a replacement cylinder in a lock and you can't push the button in, or it won't push in and turn, almost always your tailpiece is too long. And we can show that by not putting it in the knob itself fully, but I will show you. Say this was there, button won't push. But if you push, ooh, look at that. So that pretty much tells you your tailpiece is way too long. That applies to any lock, guys. Any lock out there, same way. So always, first thing you need to do is cut your tailpiece shorter so that it does not interfere with the button mechanism. I'll be right back. Okay, sorry about that. So again, if you have trouble pushing the button in, you just need to cut your tailpiece a little bit shorter. And, oh, finally, what I wanted to talk about. This, so along, you know, a bunch of schools, they were heavy duty. So say, for instance, back during the day when these were in heavy use. Oh, I forgot something. Yeah, I was talking about that before I went. So once you've got your cylinder in there and you can't get this off. So one of the tricks to dealing with that is to take a flathead screwdriver and go in on the edge. If you can't do it the normal way, which the normal way is like pulling in and lifting out. And you want to get a better screwdriver than I'm using here. This screwdriver is not great for that. So we're going to assume we're using this. But sometimes that's not sharp enough to get up under it. So you can do one of two things. You can start it off by like taking something and tapping to get the cylinder to push it up. Or you can come in like this, and this is also technically one of the hardest things of dealing with these, especially when they have not been serviced in a while. But you can get your flathead in there a little bit, and there's just a little bit of a lip that goes over that. So what I do is, and this is how a lot of locksmiths stab themselves, but if you get your screwdriver in there and then start to lever it, you want to be careful not to bend the metal, so that's why I use a little bit wider screwdriver. But if you simply twist the tip of your screwdriver around each edge, now of course the tailpiece is going to be sticking up in the way, so you kind of got to go at an angle here, but most of the time you can successfully twist on that enough to get it up and get something else under there. Still not enough. There we go. So just a simple twisting motion under that lip will help you raise it off. Because again, you're going to run across these on houses possibly that have never been rekeyed. So this thing could have been on the door since 1960, and it is very stubborn getting that to pop apart so that you can use your cylinder in it. I cannot think really. Oh, that's here we go. Let's get this off. So along, you know, a bunch of schools came along, bought a bunch of D-series knobs, and then all of a sudden this pesky thing called the ADA rolled along. Americans with Disabilities Act. Schools all over the place just spent thousands and thousands of dollars putting on new doorknobs, and then all of a sudden this rule comes along and they're like, you can't have doorknobs on your doors. What? You just sold me all these. Okay. They came up with, and these were horrible, and I've actually never fully installed one of these, so we're going to do that right now. We're going to install what is called the A04-032 Retrofit Lever Kit. Retrofit Lever Kit for D-Series locksmiths with Orbit, Plymouth, or Tulip knob designs, not for use with interchangeable cores. You want to pull your knob off and pull your knob sleeve off like it shows here. So here, and then it says we're not going to be using this anymore. So we take this away, and we are left with, let's put the key back in here. We're left without it. So we get our spacer, and we slip it over it like that. And our retrofit lever, which snaps over it like again, I don't know how this works because I've never actually put one on, interestingly enough, because these are, in my opinion, kind of ridiculous, but I could see why they made them. Flip this over. Well, I'm not to that point yet, so let's, okay, so we're going to place lever in position on the back of knob. Tulip requires, this is not a tulip. Position lever on knob so that the end of lever will point towards hinge, like that. And presumably, there we go. All right, so we're going to squeeze that onto it as far as it'll go. And then there's this little bitty mechanism that retaining plate with screws. Snap retainer plate and insert lever retainer plate cog into knob catch. And that's what I was just looking at, is the knob catch there is not exposed for us. So I guess this is not pushed down far enough. It's close. Oh, come on. Still not quite there. This is the plate with the screws. Get around here in the light, and it definitely needs to go into that notch right there. So let's try it on a different, maybe it's this shape. This is a unique shape. Let's try it on the this brass one here. See what happens. No, okay, so same problem, really. Same problem. Don't know what to say on this part of it, guys. I don't know how these work. Oh, that's probably good. Maybe without the spacer. Even without the spacer, it doesn't really work that great. Oh, no, there it goes. Okay. Oh, well, it went on. I guess we just don't need the spacer, guys. What does it say? Okay, let's try it without the spacer, even though it says you need the spacer. Maybe you don't really need the spacer. So now I'm screwing into plastic. And sorry about the lighting, it's end of the day, so I don't have my natural light coming through. But pretty self-explanatory that basically secures it by that knob retainer plate. Very interesting. Like I said, I've never in my life actually converted these because this may have been common back in the day, but nowadays they probably would look at that and be like, no. You go out and buy you some new lever handles. Let's see. One of these is our key. Alright, so obviously we're going to have to, when you put that on, before you put that on, you need to make sure you're putting it on the right direction, because if your keyhole was on this side and your retainer is on that side, obviously that's not going to work. You need the retainer to be on that side. So before you go to assembling this bad boy, which again, I'm sure most of y'all will never ever have to do. This is from a bygone era. But just in case, never know. Turn our key. See if we can't get this back together for the video. There it goes. Okay. That, my friends, is the cheap way that Schlage made knobs into levers. It was actually pretty innovative. I'm sure some engineer with Schlage thought of that and was like, yeah, I'm the man. I'm the man. But it's plastic. It would definitely not hold up in a school or commercial setting. Now, in fact, if it was locked, you could probably just break it off with enough force. So anyway, I think that covers everything on Schlage D-Series locks. Appreciate you guys watching. If y'all have any questions or comments, hit me up. I will try my best to answer them. Other than that, y'all have a great weekend. It's Friday. I'm about to clean some of this up and cut and run because I am pretty worn out. So thanks for watching, guys. Y'all have a good one. Peace. A, B, C, D, E. So there is an E handle set. D, F, F series, and then G. Was there a G? I can't remember. I don't know. Peace.